Hi sweeties, how are you doing? Welcome to Naya Sim. If this is your first time of coming across this channel, sweetheart, kindly smash that subscribe button and turn on your notification so you are notified each time I upload. And please give this video a thumb up. I appreciate you all, and I am saying a very big shout out to you all for the support and love you all give me here. I am grateful. Thank you all so much. So today we'll be talking something very important, and it's about Oklahoma judge dismisses Tulsa race massacre reparation case filed by the last known survivors. The last known survivors, I think 3 of them, this case was dismissed, and a lot of people are pissed. Black people are not having it. You know, all this white, they have been asking, you people are not the ones that experience slavery and all that. If the people were still alive, I think it make more sense paying the reparations to them, right? And now the survivor of Tulsa race massacre were the ones that fight for this, and the judge dismissed it. People are like, also looking for a way to they are looking for how to push this case forward, because I think they filed for this in states, and they cannot bring this case up. This case has really been dismissed, and people are asking, can we take this up to Supreme and maybe United Nations? And I really don't know how possible this is right now, but this is what people are asking, because they do not want this to die and all that. And someone actually, one of the people that stitched this video actually took us straight up to the law, and his explanations actually made a lot of sense, that as a US citizen, you are not supposed to file for reparations. Like, it is against US law, this thing, to fight for reparations. Man, it's a whole lot of confusion and all that. But for me, if they actually think that they do not have a lot to fix, they do not have something to fix after all the things they have done. And not just that, they are fixing something. They are directly fixing what they did, because it was all them that did all that. And the people that went through it firsthand are the ones seeking for this. You know what? I'm just going to roll this clip. We'll come back to talk about it. And I actually want to read all your comments. Let me know what you all think in the comment section. And straight up, I am rolling the clip.
Hey, good morning. Let's talk about reparations. What is it? Well, according to the United Nations, reparations refers to the process and result of remedying the damage or harm caused by an unlawful act. In the case of the Tulsa race massacre, the unlawful act is when thousands of angry white people killed over 300 innocent black people, looted their businesses and homes, and burned over 35 city blocks to the ground. All because a black teenager stood in an elevator with a white woman, and on his way out the door either stepped on her foot or bumped into her. So what is the purpose of reparations? The UN says that the purpose of reparation is generally understood to reestablish the situation that existed before the harm occurred. So did the state of Oklahoma or the city of Tulsa do any of that? No, they did not. You see, for decades, they lied about it and deliberately covered it up. A newspaper removed the front page story about it from their archives, and the police and state militia archives about the riot were missing as well. And falsifying police records is a criminal offense. The UN goes on to say that restitution should be made whenever possible to restore the victim to the original situation before the gross violation of international human rights law or serious violations of international humanitarian law occurred. And we all know that the Tulsa race massacre, as well as chattel slavery, are violations against human rights laws. So in 2020, survivors and descendants of those who died in the Tulsa race massacre went to court and sued the state of Oklahoma and the city of Tulsa for reparations. However, Judge Wall said that no descendants of anyone in the Tulsa race massacre can file for reparations, only living victims. So, Brother Ellis, who's now 102, his Sister Randall, who's now 108, and Mother Fletcher, who's now 109, went to court to sue for reparations. But in 2023, Judge Wall said, no, you can't have reparations. So she dismissed the case with prejudice to make sure that they couldn't file again. which was a slap in the face to the survivors of the Tulsa Race Massacre who were simply looking for justice in their lifetime. Even though they didn't receive reparations for the crimes against humanity they endured, the United States has issued reparations before. For example, on January 12, 1865, General Sherman promised black people 40 acres and a mule as reparations for their enslavement. But President Johnson said no, they don't need 40 acres and a mule. Their freedom is enough. Give the land back to the human traffickers that enslaved them. And that's exactly what they did. The following year, formerly enslaved Africans were given 6 months to purchase land at reasonable rates without competition from white Southerners or Northern investors. But because they worked their entire lives as enslaved people and received no pay, they had no money, and few ex-slaves were able to take advantage of the program. And the largest number that did were located in Florida, just a little over 3,000, and eventually the program failed. In 1862, President Abraham Lincoln signed the Act for the Release of Certain Persons Held to Service or Labor within the District of Columbia, and it gave former slave owners $300 per person that they set free. More than 3,100 enslaved people saw their freedom paid for in this way. However, newly freed black people got no money if they decided to stay in the United States, because the act provided for an immigration incentive of $100. I'm gonna give you $100 to just leave the States. You worked for us your entire life, so here's $100 to get the hell on up out of here. Now, the lowest estimate of what enslaved Africans were worth in the 1860s is around $20.3 trillion in today's money. Now, that's enough to fix the racial wealth gap in this country, and it'll only cost the United States a year of their GDP. But many politicians, policy, and lawmakers have been dead set against reparations since the 1700s. You ever wonder why? Well, according to Reuters, it's because 118 of America's most influential leaders have a slaveholding ancestor. That list includes state senators, state representatives, presidents, Supreme Court justices, and governors, many of whom have been dead set against reparations, because they would have to pay the descendants of people who were forced to make their families wealthy. Take our governor of Louisiana, John Bel Edwards, for example. His ancestor enslaved 57 black people, and they worked their entire lives to make his family wealthy. Our state senator, Bill Cassidy, his ancestors enslaved 4 black people, and they worked their entire lives to make his family wealthy. John Kennedy, our other state senator, his ancestor Nathan Calhoun enslaved 65 black people, and John Kennedy is opposed to reparations. Rick Allen, the representative from Georgia, his ancestor enslaved 133 Africans, and he's opposed to reparations. The governor of Alabama, Kay Ivey, her ancestor enslaved 33 Africans, and here's the prices of what they were worth at the time. Supreme Court Justice Amy Coney Barrett's ancestor enslaved 21 Africans. No wonder she's opposed to reparations. Pete Sessions, the representative from Texas, his ancestor enslaved 96 Africans. The representative from Nevada, her ancestors enslaved 183 Africans. In Oklahoma, James Langford's ancestors enslaved 3 Africans. Mark Wayne Mullen's ancestors enslaved 2, while Oklahoma State Representative Frank Lucas, his ancestors enslaved 12 Africans. President Bush's ancestor is responsible for enslaving 25 Africans who worked their entire lives and received no pay in order to make his family wealthy. Bill Clinton's ancestor enslaved 1 African, while President Obama's ancestors enslaved 2 people. And that list goes on and on and on. Throughout American history, we've seen cases where the United States of America gave reparations to various groups of people. Native Americans for stealing their land and Japanese Americans for putting them in concentration camps. Yet when it comes to black Americans who've experienced over 400 years of enslavement, Jim Crow, racism, legal and illegal discrimination, the concept of repairing all the harm that was done to us is a foreign concept to them, and they don't want anything to do with it. And that's because many people in America still have the mindset that Supreme Court Justice Roger Taney had in 1857 when he ruled that the Negro has no rights that the white man is bound to respect.
Well, Tulsa Judge Carolyn Wall just dismissed the case of reparations against the city of Tulsa for the 3 surviving members from the Tulsa race riots. All 3 are over 100 years old. Why can't you just let them have their reparations? Our mayor, G.T. Bynum, said on KRMG yesterday, I bet you'll never find a Tulsan who doesn't agree that they were wronged. But the question is, do we allow this generation to pay for the last generation's criminal mistakes? Yes. Our ancestors took out their ancestors, thereby taking away their future. North Tulsa, Black Wall Street area, one of the worst areas of town. Low police patrol. They don't even want to go over there. No grocery stores. It's absolutely bonkers. Now they're going to appeal it, but I'm assuming that they're hoping that the people will just die out and we'll get rid of this lawsuit by attrition. It's bullshit.
The last 3 known survivors of the Tulsa race massacre announced on Monday that they plan to appeal last week's ruling by an Oklahoma judge dismissing their dismissing their suit to seek reparations for the deadly 1921 event. Over one night, a mob of white people attacked Tulsa's affluent and all-black Greenwood neighborhood, killing more than 300 of the city's 10,000 black residents. The mob burned down the local businesses collectively called Black Wall Street. No one was ever held criminally liable. Survivors were never compensated for their losses. But we will not go quietly, they say. We will continue to fight until the last breath. The 3 survivors, Viola Fletcher, Leslie Bennington, I believe it is, Benefit Randall, and Hugh Van Ellis. These people all in their hundreds. They said that the lawsuit hoped to seek reparations for the long-term effects of the event, of the riot. But Judge Caroline Wall dismissed 2020 lawsuit with prejudice, meaning that it can't be filed again. That's it. You know, we don't care if we don't care if you were treated poorly. You're not getting any money from the government, right? Well, that's America, man. That's America. Yeah. Ain't that America? That's all I have to say about that.
In case you didn't see this, Oklahoma judge dismisses Tulsa race massacre reparations case filed by last known survivors. And understandably so, this decision has pissed a lot of people off. And I know many people are going to jump to the issue of racism as to why this case was dismissed, but that's not the case here. And I know what I said is going to piss some people off as well. But let's get down to the nuances of why this case was dismissed. Now let's jump back to last year on May 2nd, 2022, when CNN reported this. Tulsa race massacre reparations suit survives motion to deny and will move forward, judge ruled. And I'm going to read a key part of that article, which is the underlying issue in this whole situation. Now, John Tucker, who's the defendant for Tulsa, said this. Tucker further argued it's a matter to be addressed by other branches of government, not the courts, and the judge will be overstepping the legislative mandate by allowing this case to go to trial. And here's what that means. Reparations is an issue that must be dealt with on a state-to-state level, meaning one nation to another nation. And reparations is an international law issue. Now, fast forwarding to yesterday, July 8, 2023, Janae Williams wrote in this article in the Oklahoman, the survivors' attorneys failed to identify a legally cognizable abatement remedy, and that the court was not willing to engage in the management of public policy matters that should be dealt with by the legislative and executive branches, which the issue of reparations is supposed to be dealt with by the legislative and executive branches, because it's an issue of policy or foreign policy, which further means that it's an international dispute. Now let's read what other cases have to say about reparations. As stated above, the Constitution relegates issues involving foreign policy to the political department of the government, the executive branch and the legislative branch. As an issue affecting U.S. relations with the international community, war reparations fall within the domain of the political branches and are not subject to judicial review, which I read to you in those articles, which is the underlying issue here. The executive branch has always addressed claims for reparations as claims between governments. And again, here's the issue. You can't get reparations unless you're part of a nation. So you can't on one hand say you're a U.S. citizen and try to get reparations from the same government you're complaining did something to you. This is one of the reasons why they force assimilated us into their culture after they colonized these lands. So if you're saying you're a U.S. citizen, you're automatically barred from any claims to reparations. The executive department repeated that reparation claims are to be addressed at the state-to-state level. And this video is not to justify the dismissal. It's simply to explain why they're dangling reparations every so often, but it never happens. Because they're not exposing to you what I just exposed to you, that you need a nation in order to have reparations. So what's the solution? You politically separate yourself, declare your nationality, and work together as a nation. Not as a so-called black community, as a legitimate nation of people that's recognized in international law.
So if you haven't heard, the Tulsa Race Massacre lawsuit for the survivors has been dismissed. So basically it's 3 survivors that's still alive from the Tulsa Race Massacre back in 1921. And if you don't know what the Tulsa Race Massacre was, it was a black business district in Tulsa, Oklahoma, being completely bombed and destroyed back in 1921. There were 3 survivors that were alive during that time, and they were seeking reparations for what had happened because, they was actually alive during that time. And I haven't been hearing about this at all. I just actually heard about this like a couple days ago when I seen that the case got dismissed. I seen a few YouTubers talking about it. But the thing is, when it comes to reparations for slavery, the excuse that they like to use is, well, you wasn't even there. You wasn't even alive during that time. So what excuse can you use for these people? Because they was actually there and living during that time. And they actually experienced what happened. They had to sit there and actually watch family members, friends being murdered and killed, businesses that they family members work hard to build, homes being destroyed. They sit there and actually witness that. So not only witnessing something like they can be very traumatizing, especially at a young age, but say if your family did have businesses, homes, or land that was destroyed, that's losing your family's wealth. So you should be compensated for that. You are directly affected by that. So even though this lawsuit is being dismissed, the survivors are appealing the decision, and hopefully they can get this up to the Supreme Court, and they're going to continue to push for reparations, which they rightfully deserve for this. One thing people love to do is to shame black people for fighting for reparations, because they say we're looking for a handout. Fighting for reparations is not looking for a handout. It is fighting for justice. Compensation is a form of justice for the crimes that has been done. If your family member was murdered and robbed, and the person who did it was still living, you will be seeking some type of justice. So there is no excuse to why they should not get reparations. They was there. They was alive. They was directly tied to the event. They was probably directly tied to the wealth that was lost during that time. So they rightfully deserve reparations.
So this is all I got from this series, and I am not going to lie to you. I am still very much disappointed. Disappointed in the sense that, these people were the ones that witnessed this the atrocities they did back then to them and in Tulsa. And the fact that they are denying them these reparations, it's something I do not understand, because like, make this thing make sense. Like this last brother said that they have always been asking, like, you know, you people were not the ones that experienced experienced it and all that, and there is no need paying you all for all that happened back then, because like, you know, the people that experienced it should be the ones to get the money. And then the people that experienced it are the ones that filed for this, and the judge dismissed it. And I am asking, why was it dismissed? Is reparations not, is it not time, like, is the time not due, more than due enough for them to pay the reparations? And I think they are also barred from, like, you know, from filing another lawsuit. But people are asking, is there a better way they can go about it? Because Black people are really very, the day this thing, like the news, like, you know, they heard the news, I was like, I don't know, but I knew something like this was going to happen, because I knew they filed for that, and like, it's been in court for a longer time and the rest of it. And when I saw it, I was like, I didn't expect anything, like, you know, I felt it. And people are asking, is that how we can, like, you know, bring the case to the UN, United Nations and all that? Because people felt like this is injustice, and you all know that it is injustice. And watching them do this to, like, you know, these people is something very humiliating, if you ask me. But the other one that explained from the law, that according to the law, that you are not supposed to, he said that if you are a US citizen, that you are not supposed to ask for reparations. And, you know, I am not a law student, and I really do need more explanation to that. And the whole thing is just, for me, it is a mess. I mean, this reparation has been long overdue. And if they are thinking that they do not have something to repair, they are liars. They are liars, and they need to fix this as soon as possible. According to the Lavabas man, you heard how he explained it. The worth of a slave back then and the worth of a slave right now, like the money back then and right now, it is a whole lot of money. And now they are feeling like, how are we even supposed to pay them all this money? I mean, because they always feel like Black people are always looking for a way to, like, you know, get some money, probably to be ahead and the rest of it. And all they can do, or the best they can do, is always look for a way to press them all down, because they do not want to pay for reparations. And I am saying, time, it is more than overdue. Let them pay the reparations now. And I really hope, and I am praying, that there will be a way they can also pursue this case, like probably through the UN, because like United Nations needs to come into this case. And somebody was like saying Supreme Court, because I think they went to the states, and maybe the next is Supreme Court. I don't care, but whichever way that I will, like, you know, that will solve this case and make these people get their reparations, because trust me, these people needs their reparation more than any other. Like, everybody needs that reparation, but these people were the people that went through it all. And this judge already dismissed this. I really don't know what else to do, but this is where I'm going to draw the curtain. And thank you so much for the support, and see you all in my next video. Bye for now.